Hotter and more humid on Friday. Look, somebody just told me I had some audio issues. Let me start all over here. I had all these great jokes about me not being good at showing you golf and teeing off, but I just got word that audio is, let's see, bang on the board a little bit. I really didn't bang on the board. Okay, I've got audio again here. That was my fault. So let me take you back one here. Let's go back to the time lapse, okay? And I had great play-by-play in the time lapse, so I wasn't so good on the golfers. All right, so here we go. You can see once the sun comes up, we have a cloud-free sky at the start of the day. Then we get a few high, thin clouds coming in out of the north and west with a few jet contrails, and overall, a few cumulus develop, but the cumulus are not very big. You can tell because the humidity's lower, there's not a lot of moisture to form clouds, and we ended up with a nice day around the tri-state. So noticeable humidity again tomorrow, but not bad, about normal for this time of year. Friday, hotter and more humid. You'll definitely feel uncomfortable. And then Saturday, this applies to Sunday also, hot and sultry weather around the tri-state. Heat index in many areas will make it to the upper 90s. A few spots could top out over 100. A couple of those microclimates we've been talking about, like Batesville and over in Lebanon, where you have all those crops that transpire a lot. And so the good news for your 4th of July 3-day weekend forecast is that we do not have rain in the forecast. So if you have a picnic during the day, if you're going to a fireworks display and you're sitting there on the grass at night, you don't have to worry about any rain coming your way. No severe thunderstorms either. That's good news. And so it looks like a good weekend. Now, when I was a kid, now this is really interesting because a lot of people have spent a lot of time researching this, but it's very, very common to hear somebody say, oh, you know, when I was a kid, there was a lot more snow than there is now. Or what I've been saying lately to people that I work with, you know, it seems to me like every 4th of July was really hot and humid, you know, and the thing is what they finally figured out is when you go and look at people's memories of what the weather was like when they were kids, the memory is not faulty, but you have a better and a firmer and a clearer impression of those extreme events than you do the normal days. And so, for example, if you're an adult and you say, oh, it seems like we had a lot more snow when I was a kid. Well, the few days that you had a lot of snow put an indelible memory on your brain, whereas the days where you didn't have a lot of snow were just normal days and they really don't make an impression. Same thing with heat and humidity. Seems to me like every summer at 4th of July it was so hot and humid, but it's not true. You look back at the weather data, that's just not the case. It's just that those hot, humid days and the big, having a big family picnic or something puts an indelible mark in your memory and you remember those better. So when you're doing research into past climates, human memory isn't always the best thing to rely on. It's more like digital data is. Okay, so if somebody had a thermometer back in the 18 teens, and they wrote down the temperatures at certain hours every single day, that's more reliable than somebody's memory of those events. And it's interesting, I said that because the 18 teens I do have, and it's property of the Cincinnati Historical Society, but a guy named Isaac Jackson, he was a farmer in Green Township, and starting January 1, 1814, he started keeping daily records of the weather, and I've got copies of all those, and I think I've got almost every single day that he recorded all the way up into the late 1840s. And so weather records go way back here in Cincinnati, and that's really fun to look through those. Okay, let's get back to the increasing heat and humidity as we head into the weekend. So here's what it looks like. Friday is the 4th, and so that's nice because it's a 3-day weekend. And I know a lot of people have said, well, if it's a 3-day weekend, let's turn it into a 4-day weekend and just take Thursday off too. So tomorrow's high temperature will be in the 80s, the heat index 87, and that's because the humidity stays pretty low compared to what we had in the recent past. The heat index 89, so it's hot, it's humid enough to make you uncomfortable on Friday, but not overpowering. And then Saturday and Sunday, those heat index values will make it into the low and mid 90s in most locations. In a few spots, some of those specific microclimates could top out at 100 or a little bit higher. Then it doesn't necessarily get much less humid or cooler as we head into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's the fact that we have more cloud cover. And so even though the high temperatures will be a few degrees cooler, the humidity will still be up there. And so we still have heat index values in the upper 80s to lower 90s as we head through the beginning of next week. Okay, right now we're looking at really nothing but some high thin cloud cover on the satellite and radar loop. As we zoom way out, I've been watching this. This is a little bit of a weakness here. Remember, we've got a big high pressure system over us, but you know, the atmosphere is a gas. It's fluid, meaning it moves, and so there can be weak areas in there. And there's a little bit of here, and you see some cloud cover and some showers. Now, if you project these along just in the same direction they're moving, they stay south and west of Cincinnati and our viewing area. However, there's a little tendency for them to grow, so I don't think we see anything. And if we do, it would be a sprinkle or something like that. And so you can see that system moving to the south and east. Now, also, big area here of high pressure, okay? And that is what's going to dominate our weather for the weekend. And there's plenty of dry air out there to bring us a dry weekend. Okay, now what's going to happen and why are we going to get an increase of humidity in temperature over the weekend? Well, when we look at it upstairs where the jet stream is, there's a big hot high pressure system out to the west. The jet stream has taken a little dip here over the Cincinnati area, okay, just a little dip here, and that's allowed somewhat less humid, somewhat cooler air to filter into the tri-state. Okay, so what's going to happen here upstairs at jet stream level is as we head toward the weekend, that big hot high pressure system is going to migrate into the Cincinnati area. That would give us hot and sticky weather for Saturday and Sunday. Now remember, this is upstairs, not at the surface. Then, after we get past the weekend, everything begins to reverse and shift back to the south and west. So that big center of hot, high pressure is going to move south and westward. And what that's going to do, that's going to leave us with the jet stream flowing out of the north and west. This is the storm track right here where the jet stream is. And so most of the systems we get, it looks like this pattern may last into the early part of August. Most of the systems we get are going to be what we call ridge riders. Because they come over the ridge. This is a ridge of high pressure. They come over the ridge here, head south and eastward, and they bring scattered showers and thunderstorms. Now, those ridge riders are also what we call in the winter Alberta clippers, because they come more out of a little bit more out of the north there and bring us some of that cold air. So what happens is because they're coming out of the north and west, they're moving fairly quickly. They are coming from a dry area, so they don't have it's not like they're coming from the Gulf of Mexico. They're coming from a dry area here. Okay, so they don't have as much moisture as a system that comes out of the south. That limits the amount of rainfall. And in addition to that, they move pretty quickly like an Alberta clipper does, and they don't have time to pull a lot of moisture northward. So as a result, you get a lot of smaller systems, you get frequent periods of shower activity, and you have fewer and fewer severe weather events. The severe weather events really need a slower moving system that comes more out of the south. Severe weather event drags that tropical air northward into the Ohio Valley and brings us that chance of not only heavy rain, but severe thunderstorms. This is kind of the opposite. Coming out of the northwest, doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with. It moves fast enough so there's not a lot of time for that moisture to make it into the Cincinnati area. And then you get a little bit of shower activity and it moves on. So what a northwest flow regime like this does, and I looked in detail at every single model that's available right now this afternoon, and every one of them is saying this pattern may last into mid-August. If anything changes, it may flatten out a little bit, and the jet stream will come in more from the west-northwest. But overall, if those models are correct and this pattern continues with northwest flow and these ridge rider type of storms, we will end up with fewer severe weather events than you would expect in a normal summer. We will end up with about normal precipitation and temperatures not far from normal either, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at what a northwest flow regime like I just described means, okay? It would mean that there's no long heat wave in the immediate future. If this northwest flow regime holds, we'll have some hot days. We might have a couple hot days in a row, but we're not going to have an extended extended heat wave. About normal rainfall, because each of those little systems that comes through, and they'll come through frequently, will bring a little bit of rain, but not necessarily any heavy rain and not necessarily severe storms, although you can't rule out a few severe storm episodes. Fewer severe events because of the flow out of the north and west, and then the systems will be frequent, small systems rather than those big, slow-moving ones that cause a lot of damage and wreak a lot of havoc from coast to coast. So that's what we're looking at. Okay, this weekend, the hot air moves in, the hot air moves back off to the west. The big ridge of high pressure out west causes ridge riders and northwest flow into our area, and that would mean no long heat wave. Well, we'll have some hot days. That means about normal rainfall, although we'll have a few dry stretches in there, but no drought. Fewer severe weather events because it's coming from the north and west, and it doesn't, in most cases, those systems that are ridge riders that come out of the northwest don't have time to pull that Gulf of Mexico moisture northward, and then those frequent small systems that we call the ridge riders. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Now that could all change. Now this morning, look at the low temperatures. I mentioned yesterday that most areas would drop into the 60s. A few spots would hit the upper 50s. Well, Richmond, and the airport there is very close also to Connorsville, so it's as close to Richmond as it is to Connorsville. So Richmond, Liberty, some of the areas up there in Fayette and Union counties, more than likely were in the upper 50s. Most other areas stopped in the low to mid 60s. High temperatures so far today. Now these are preliminary because the officials aren't reported really until 8 o'clock on daylight saving time. Okay, so we're looking here at the high temperatures: 84 at CVG, 86 at Lunken and Batavia and Falmouth, and Madison also at 86, 85 in Maysville, Hamilton, 86 in the Middletown area. So, and that is a little bit cooler than normal because the normal high now is 86. So CVG, the official temperature, was a couple degrees cooler than normal. Everybody else was about normal. Okay. And temperatures right now, not much different. It's 83 at CVG, 85 at Lunken, 84 in Batavia. And if you compare this to yesterday at this time, the temperatures are about the same. Richmond's a couple degrees warmer, Maysville's a couple degrees warmer, a couple spots like Lebanon and Harrison are a couple degrees cooler, but we're about the same as we were at this time yesterday. Now, if you remember, yesterday it was cooler out this way, but at this time yesterday, there was still a lot of cloud cover and some shower activity out here, and so these stations were just beginning to clear out, just beginning to recover from the rainfall and the cooled air, and so that's why they're warmer today than they were at this time yesterday. Okay, let's go and take a look at the latest dew point temperatures. All right, Chillicothe at 57, Falmouth and CVG at 57, Lunken at 58, Springboro at 58. Whenever you have a dew point in the 50s, it is comfortable. Now, research over the years has shown, and this is lots of research from as long as they measure dew points, is that when the dew point temperature makes it to right about 60 degrees, okay, most people say, you know, I kind of feel the humidity increasing. You just begin to get that tinge of uncomfortable weather on the way. When the dew point makes it to the mid-60s, almost everybody thinks it's humid. And when it makes it to 70, the dew point makes it to 70, everybody thinks it's really hot and really sticky. Now, there are places where it's a little different. If you go to New Orleans, if you go to southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, you end up with being a different climate regime. And like our new meteorologist, Anna Duvall, she is from Alabama, and northern Alabama, so not southern Alabama. But the weather we had when the heat index was hitting 100, she goes, this feels like a normal summer. So a lot of it depends on your experience. A lot of it depends on where you are. But most people, when the dew point is in the upper 50s, feel it's comfortable. When it crosses that threshold at 60 degrees, most people begin to sense the increase of humidity. By 65, almost everybody is a little bit uncomfortable, and by 70, it's into the sultry range in almost everybody. Even if you live in New Orleans and the dew point's 70, it's humid and it's uncomfortable. So right now, those dew point temperatures in many areas comfortable, just barely being able to feel in some, but then you see that microclimate in Batesville, in Lebanon, dew points 68 and 66, and so it's definitely sticky and humid there. Okay, let's take a look at the change in dew points. Over the last 24 hours, the dew point now is 10 degrees below what it was at this time yesterday at CVG, 11 colder at Falmouth, 11 colder at Lebanon, and so not only do we have temperatures that are cooler around the tri-state by several degrees when we had the when the heat peaked, but we also have lower humidity. So the combination of cooler temperatures and lower humidity end up making it feel much more comfortable. And so when somebody says, oh, it's not the heat, it's humidity, it's both. It's both the heat and it's the humidity, and both are lower now, and so it feels much nicer out there around the tri-state. Okay, the sun sets this evening, 9:08. We're looking at temperatures dropping off to about 73 by 11 p.m. Overnight, temperatures about the same as they were this morning. We'll still have a few patches of fog around the tri-state between 4 a.m. and maybe 7 a.m. And temperatures will drop into the low and mid 60s. A few spots again will hit the upper 50s. And then tomorrow looks like this. I've got a high of 86 in the forecast. Sunset still at 9:08. 86 is right at normal for this time of year. And if the low at CVG only drops to 66, that'll make it a normal low. So we're looking at temperature-wise pretty much a normal day during the day tomorrow. Okay, now what we're looking at is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. I did it again. I've got too many keyboards and too many things going on. Okay, so what we have here, we are right on the edge of warmer than normal from the 8th through the 12th of July, according to the Climate Prediction Center. Okay, if we take a look at the second half of their forecast, you can see we're still kind of on the edge. We're just only in the first level of warmer than normal, so a little bit warmer than normal through the 16th of July. Now, this particular graphic is the one that's only updated once a week on Friday. It will be updated Friday, and it still says we're going to be a little bit above normal. So let's think in terms of temperatures near normal for the next 20 days or so. Okay, if we take a look at precipitation, and this is actually kind of good news. We've got precipitation a little bit more than normal. Through the 16th of July, a little bit more than normal, and near normal as we head to the 28th of July. Okay, so if you're taking all this in, what this is adding up to is no extended heat wave coming our way, at least probably into August. No really long dry stretch, although there will be some spots where you don't get rain for a few days. It looks like rainfall will be about normal, so about normal temperatures, about normal precipitation, which means no long-term drought coming our way, at least for the foreseeable future, and no extreme heat wave coming our way, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, once we get into late August and September, that might change, but right now, from now probably into late July, maybe even in the beginning of August, probably closer to normal than anything else. Okay, so here's that 7-day forecast. We're looking at a low temperature overnight, 64, high tomorrow at 87, 68 and 89 on Friday. Tomorrow, not a bad day, a little bit more humid, but still about normal for this time of year at this location. More humid on Friday. Everybody's going to feel the increased humidity on Friday, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. Saturday and Sunday will be downright sultry, highs in the low 90s, heat index values closing in on 100 in many locations. The good news about your 3-day holiday weekend is it looks dry. So if you're heading out to a fireworks celebration, now we know from the list we have on the Fox 19 Now website that there are fireworks celebrations Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday. Okay, so if you're planning on going to one of the fireworks displays, we're not going to have to worry about rain. And it'll be warm enough during the day that it'll probably be comfortably mild to cool as the fireworks are set off. Now, of course, with the humidity increasing Saturday and Sunday, probably pretty sticky, but still, no rain. Should be a great time for fireworks for this holiday weekend. Then as we head into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, a greater chance of some shower activity from time to time around the tri-state. Now, when we go beyond the 7-day forecast, high temperatures cool off a little bit for a while. Notice, now the normal high now is 86, so we cool off a couple degrees below that for the 13th and 14th, and then right back up to about normal. But if you look at those high and low temperatures, they're all pretty close to normal for this time of the year, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. Okay, it looks like it's going to be close to normal. We're going to end up with that ridge rider, that northwest flow situation. The Climate Prediction Center says near normal, so we're thinking about near normal through the 16th. And notice each day has that chance of a shower or a thunderstorm, but it's almost all the summertime scattered pop-up type of stuff. Okay, and if we get a couple ridge rider type of situations, those systems coming in out of the north and west, we may have more widespread rain on a day or two, but overall, it's looking like near normal precipitation and near normal temperatures. And here's a better look at the temperature graph. High temperatures will be plotted first, low temperatures after that, put on the normal high and low temperature lines, and you can see that we do peak in the low 90s on the 5th and the 6th, so that's the weekend, it's the holiday weekend, and then we settle down to right around normal, okay, on the high side. Low side, we still have probably through the 10th warmer than normal mornings, and then we settle down to just a little bit warmer than normal. So not far from normal weather is coming our way for the next 14 days, and the extended outlook, that's all I can think of calling it, but the extended outlook, which takes us kind of into the beginning of August. And remember, when you get 4 weeks, 5 weeks out, everything's really iffy. But we are, again, talking about near normal temperatures, near normal precipitation, and most of the systems that come our way, those ridge riders out of the north and west, with a minimal amount of severe weather. Although severe weather is still possible, it looks like it'll be minimized from this flow pattern that is developing around the tri-state. Okay, let me go ahead to see what we've got going on here, is see if we have anybody talking to us on Facebook. There we go. All right. And this goes back about 20 minutes. Shannon France said, can't hear you. And I figured that out, Shannon. And she says, thanks here. Thank you for letting me know. Once again, it wasn't an equipment issue. It wasn't a Facebook or YouTube issue. It was a Steve issue. What can I say? All right. Brandon Hobson. It says, good Wednesday evening to you, Steve. Happy 4th of July. He says he likes Fox 19 News. Thank you very much. We work very hard to do what we do. And if anybody keeps count of things, if you look at all the other stations around the Cincinnati tri-state area, we do more news than anybody. We do 13 and a half hours each weekday, okay? In addition to that 13 and a half hours of news, each weekday we do about 40 minutes of live streaming weather. And then on the weekends, we have 40, about 80 more minutes of streaming weather at noon or at 10:15 and again at 6 p.m. And of course, we try our best to get you all the information you need. And my particular part, of course, is weather. And we just want to make sure that you get the weather information you need as quickly and accurately as you need it. Okay. Pandora Miles says, have a good evening. I will, Pandora. Thank you very much. And then a couple more people here have commented that I couldn't be heard, and we got that fixed. Okay. Susan Wally says she wishes a cold front would dip down past Kentucky so we get, the front is down to the south, and that has brought less humid air, but it's still hot out there. Okay, and I know if you've got a bunch of farm animals like she does, even though the humidity is lower and that, it's still, you got to take care of those animals and make sure that they have plenty of water and shade and all that other stuff. So it's a big job. And then Sarah DeWitt says, hi, hope I'm having a good evening. I am. Thanks, Sarah. I hope you are too. And I hope everybody has great plans and has a good time with family and friends for the 4th of July holiday. Now, I'll be on again tomorrow. Okay, and then meteorologist Aaron Ashley will be on Friday the 4th, and so you can check out with her what it looks like right up to the last minute. But overall, again, it's going to get hotter and more humid Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, we do not have any rain in the forecast until we get into maybe Monday, and that's just a chance. And so it's looking like a very good chance that your holiday plans will go off without being interrupted by any rain. Now remember, we also get hot and humid, and I talked about this yesterday. I have either been running or riding a bicycle for, oh my gosh, 1964 is when I started running after the Summer Olympics there. So 64, that's a lot of years, 50 years, 51 years, and learned a lot in that time. But remember, what you need to do, make sure that you have plenty of hydration. You've got to keep your fluid levels up. You've got to keep your blood sugar up. So, it's not bad if you have, if you're drinking something to hydrate, that it has sugar in it to help give you some energy. And you also have to keep your electrolytes in balance. Electrolytes are things like sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, that actually, because of their electrical properties, help your body function. And the three most important ones in the short term, I mean, if you're going to go out and walk from here to the West Coast in 3 months, that's long term. But in short term, if you're out for an afternoon jogging or walking on a trail or riding a bike, and you're going to be sweating a lot, the three most important electrolytes in the short term are sodium, chloride, and potassium. Okay, so where can you get those? Sodium and chloride, the two most important, just make up salt. So anything you eat that's got salt in it is going to help keep that level of sodium and chloride adequate for your body to function. Potassium is one that's important for regulating your heart, for leg cramps and that, and there are a lot of sources of potassium, okay? One of the things I like to do, and people think I'm crazy, oh, you're eating junk food. I thought you were, you know. Potato chips are a really good source of sodium and chloride because they've got salt on them. And potato chips are a really good source of potassium because potatoes have a lot of potassium in them. So if you eat potato chips, that helps keep that sodium, chloride, and potassium levels in balance or adequate. Other sources of potassium, orange juice is great. Bananas are great, and peanut butter is great, okay? And then you can do things like dried apricots have a lot of potassium in them, but they're generally harder to find. So I like, so if I'm out, I actually, when I carry my water bottle on my bike, sometimes two, it's always about half orange juice, half water with some other of the electrolytes added in. And then you can always stop at a little corner store and get a bag of potato chips to boost that sodium, the chloride, and also the potassium levels. So that's my 2 cents worth. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows it's hydration, it's blood sugar, and it is electrolytes. And the electrolyte part, everybody, it seems to be a little bit more of a mystery to everybody. And essentially, if you're out for an afternoon, you don't have to worry about long-term stuff. Sodium, chloride, and potassium. And sodium and chloride make salt, so anything you eat that's salty helps that out. And then potassium, orange juice, bananas, potato chips, and peanut butter are great sources of that. So that's it. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more about the holiday weekend. And until then, stay cool, stay dry. Well, you won't have to worry about the weather getting you wet. So stay cool, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.